You're listening to Workforce Innovation News, powered by LWIA 23. Get ready to hear about all things workforce development and workforce innovation. And now, on to the episode.
Hello, and welcome to WIN, Workforce Innovation News. I am Jamie Korda-Hijawi, the director for LWIA 23. Today, I have Michael Beavers, the division chair for technology at Lakeland College. Hello, Michael. How are you?
Hello, I'm doing great. It's good to be here.
Thank you so much for being here. We're going to talk about some fun stuff, and specifically stuff I'm not very well versed in, so I'm excited to maybe learn some new things. We have been hearing, so a previous episode with Bonnie Moore from the Center of Business and Industry here at Lakeland, I was talking about how the workforce locally has to pivot so quickly, especially because of the pandemic, and we all changed we were very nimble. We had some unexpected changes we were not prepared for, but it's really interesting how the workforce kind of overcame. But I came into this role at April 20th, 2020, like right at the beginning of the pandemic.
Surprise.
Right? Yeah. It's like my whole life changed too. But I was talking to Bonnie, like, what were the trends that we were seeing? What were the upcoming changes that were affecting the local workforce? And she said technology. That was the big thing. Technology is taking off. And then so knowing that was coming even prior to the pandemic, and then all the new technology that we've had come about in the last couple of years, I really wanted to talk about automation in the workforce, how it's impacting local businesses, how it's impacting our area, and just some of the cool things we're seeing. I know my own personal experience with technology has normally been like, yeah, we get a new software so things are more efficient and you're doing less tedious manual stuff. But I know out there in different industries, there's a lot more really cool, really interesting things going on. So before we dive into that, go ahead and just give me an introduction of yourself, kind of where you're at now, how you got there, and what you're doing at Lakeland.
All right, so Michael Beavers, I'm local to this area for most of the time. I've always been involved in some type of maintenance. I've been a jet engine mechanic. I've been an electrician. I have been an automation technician. I've been a computer programmer, but always kind of stayed in the manufacturing and troubleshooting maintenance arena for my whole career. I was fortunate enough to get hired at Lakeland and really figured it'd be about 3 years I'd be here and then I'd move on. And I think I've been here 25 now. It's a fascinating place to be. I work with some wonderful and talented people, you included. And have just really enjoyed the ride. At some point in time, we needed a new division chair. And after much deliberation, I finally said I would give that a shot. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm the division chair over the technology division here at Lakeland College.
Very awesome. All right. So as the division chair for technology at Lakeland, there's a whole bunch of different technology programs going on. So like I only have a very limited, I don't even understand all the stuff that you guys do. I'll be honest. Like there's a ton. There's CAD, there's robotics, and even the names change. So tell me a little bit about some of the programs that you have there real quick.
All right, so you mentioned CAD already. We have civil engineering. We have electronics. We have welding. We have automotive. We have mechanical, electrical. And then there's some smaller programs that are attached to those. Trying to think if I'm missing any or not. Oh, building construction technology. I think that's probably the major ones.
Yeah, so that's a good cross section of the manufacturing industry, building industry. It's not just one sector. So that's really, you kind of have your toes dipped in and have some knowledge about a whole lot of things going on. So tell me about some of the upcoming or some of the cutting edge stuff that you and your program coordinators are hearing from the local workforce that you're needing to get students now prepared for when they get into the workforce?
Okay. Gosh, every single place has called us probably in the last few months and said, we need people. There is definitely a need for trained technical people in every career field that we just talked about. In the last 3 weeks, I've had 4 different welding shops say, hey, we'd love to partner with you. We need some qualified welders with some real skill. But like I said, we have seen that in every one of our career fields here. It's getting more and more lucrative for students who will seek those career paths because there aren't enough workers. The pay continues to go up. And what happens is the pay goes up at one plant, and so some people move there, and which leaves opening in another plant. So they raise their prices and people go there, and they just kind of steal from each other until we get enough workers to actually fill all the open slots. So it's an exciting time to have those skills and be in those career fields.
It is. It's almost like a new industrial revolution type thing. Like it's a big monumental change is coming up.
So
we're in the midst of it.
So a couple of things, and I'll theorize a little bit. Years ago, a lot of the high schools cut their technical programs. And I think that really began the cascade to what we have now is we don't have people that are in the career fields. Some other things have happened as well. I'll give you automotive, for instance. So it used to be that, you know, me and my dad could sit out and work on a car. You can't do that now. The cars are so complicated. So it's really difficult for somebody to know that I'd even like to be in automotive because I've never had a chance to actually work on a car. So, and if you don't have a program in your high school where you ever see people working on cars or get a chance to be, you know, experience that, that may be a career field you've never thought of, but that may be the perfect career field for you. And so we're seeing the high schools begin to bring back some of those technical programs. And we're seeing a big call for it out in industry. We're seeing the state providing lots of different grants, trying to get people back into those career fields.
I think I agree with your theory. I think it did kind of get off our radar and things have just changed so much. We're not getting that hands-on experience. Just society has changed. We don't necessarily, some of the younger generation doesn't have someone at home who even has time to sit and work on the car. Like, oh, we're working and going to school and we're doing this and that. So we're sending it over to the mechanic that will pick it up and drop it off for us because we don't even have time to go sit at the shop. So yeah, there's a lot of changes going on.
So not only that, so you mentioned a couple things early on about automation and efficiency. And I think that's really driving where things are heading now. Most places realize, especially when they don't have the people, how can we use automation to help us, you know, with our lack of manpower? And so we're seeing a lot more robotics happen. Businesses are looking at ways to be more and more efficient. And one of the things that's beginning to happen through there is more and more call for robots. And the other one is for artificial intelligence and machine language or machine learning. And so those are a couple of technologies that we are planning to get more involved in. We're hoping to bump up our core automation programs with pneumatics, hydraulics, PLCs, but really start to delve into some of the newer technologies that are coming out.
Okay, so for our listeners, maybe they're just as cocooned as I am, and they're not entirely aware of what machine learning is. Give us a little explanation on what machine learning is, and you know, what kind of career pathways would you be more likely to need that skill? Is that for everyone? Do we all need to pick up a little bit of that, or is it more specified?
Well, hopefully I'll remember all the different parts of that question. But the beginning is, what is machine learning, AI? And you see it all the time if you watch Netflix or if you do Spotify, because the recommender systems that say you might like this is machine learning. And basically what happens is it takes a look at the data of the things you've watched before And it looks at all the other user data and says, okay, these people have seen a lot of those same things that you have, but they also rated these certain TV programs high. So it makes the assumption that you like the same thing as these other people, so they're going to recommend that to you. And Spotify does the same thing. So that's kind of machine language. If you've got Siri, Siri is considered more AI, the machine language, although the two are really hard to define the difference, but Siri learns how you talk and your voice and begins to understand, if you want to call it that, what you're asking it to do. You know, hey Siri, what's the weather? But it is trying to learn
It's
as we
currently
go.
clear and 66 degrees. Today's high will be 66 degrees and the low will be 39 degrees.
There we go.
I love it. I love it.
That was Siri for us.
She knows you. She knows what you were asking.
Machine language, or I keep calling machine language, machine learning is a little bit different in where you typically have some information and you have a specific outcome you know that you're looking for. For instance, I just wrote a program here not too long ago to do scheduling. And what it does is it looks back on several years of our data of how we scheduled, how many students were in the freshman class and how many students were in the sophomore classes. And that's what it does. It basically jumps in there, reads all these spreadsheets, takes a look at all the data and says, based on that and what you've got this year, next year, you're going to offer these classes and you're probably going to have about this many students. How that applies to manufacturing, well, I'll back up just another step. There was a while back something I ran into. It was fascinating reading. It was called an Invention Machine. And what they would do was they would take some basic thing. Let's say you wanted to improve the efficiency of your piping. Okay. And so you would get a model of the pipes in your plant and how stuff would flow from one place to another. And you would put an Invention Machine and it would basically change a few parameters and see if it made the efficiency better or worse. And once it found something that was better, it would keep it. And then it would keep changing other parameters and trying to make everything better until there weren't any more parameters it could figure out to change to make the system better. But it designed a whole bunch of really cool things. But basically, that's the way AI works. It gets a bunch of data, it makes some small changes, sees what the outcome was, keeps the good one, throws the bad ones away, and just continues to go that. So when you're talking about efficiency, you might be able to lay out a plant. Here's the size of our machines, here's the height, here's our electrical, usage. How could, design me a plant floor that is the most efficient use of that? Or design me a plant that I can get the products to where I need them to be at a given time in the shortest amount of time or the least amount of work for an employee. Or we might even be looking at visual. So we're taking pictures of the product that comes off the line, and it might be able to spot defects before they become actual defects. So, this corner is getting slightly rounded. It's still in spec, but we've got a problem going on. So we can correct it before we actually make any bad parts. And so we save a lot of money. We don't have customers upset. The pieces aren't in the box where they're supposed to be, or, you're missing the screw from your IKEA piece, so you can't put it all the way back together. But those are kind of some of the things that we can do with that.
Okay. So what I'm getting from this is that the machine learning is more of recognizing patterns and then kind of projecting what they think the next pattern would be, what it interprets the next pattern to be, the next step in the pattern. And then AI takes that to the next level and using that, but also at the same time, not just patterns, but optimization and having a little bit more analysis and creativity. So almost like 3D to 4D, or, just the next dimension of it.
That's a good explanation. AI is typically a little higher level than machine learning, although they're the same, they're all tied together. Machine learning is kind of a subset of AI, where typically when people talk about AI, they're talking about a little higher level, kind of like you mentioned.
Okay. And so we're seeing that's definitely something that's usable in manufacturing. So, all right, as you're talking about this stuff, my brain works in really weird ways. And one of the ways it works is it's bringing up the a scene from Johnny Depp's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, or Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And Charlie's dad's at the toothpaste facility, and he's putting the caps on the toothpaste. And then they get that robotic arm that can put the cap on the toothpaste. So now he's out of a job. But then you cut scene later in the movie, Charlie's dad is actually back at that job, and he's now like finagling with that machine. He's making sure it goes and it runs properly. So that really brings up, okay, we're doing some really cool stuff. The machine learning and the AI is helping us be more efficient, and it is filling the gaps of the, our workforce is not, it's not big enough to fill the demand for our local employers right now. But also, where is that boundary? I think a lot of people are still kind of scared about this idea that if we really embrace automation and AI, we're going to be obsolete. What are your thoughts on that, or what are you seeing?
I hear that a lot, and I've thought about this a lot. Of course, there's always a change anytime we change technologies. So a farmer back 100 years ago and a farmer now, the technology has changed. It's a huge change. So that has to happen is the farmers have to get more sophisticated, good or bad. And that's kind of what's going to happen with the workforce. Anytime you go to this new technology, there has to be someone to work on it. And I remember several years ago them talking about, well, if we go to all these automated tellers with the banks, that we won't have to have real tellers anymore. And what we ended up actually doing was hiring more people, was my understanding, because of all the other functions that had to happen now that we've got this in place. A person can do an amazing amount of work. Typically machines are very specific, can only do so much. So we have to get other people that can either work on them or program them or do those things that come from other industries, and people begin to kind of skill up to different jobs. So I would agree that some of the jobs that are easily taken over by a robot, for instance, would be lifting something from one place to another. Those jobs may eventually go away. I don't know. But they will always have to have someone to work on them, to program them, to think about what we want to do next. We'll need new parts suppliers for those robotics pieces. We'll need designers for those new robotics pieces. So I don't think we end up with a net loss. We now have this group of people that don't have anywhere to go. It just, we kind of reshuffle the deck.
So they don't have anywhere to go, but they do need to get some additional skills to move up and to have a different position. So it's encouraging and almost forcing the local workforce to do better, to upskill themselves. So I see that as a good thing in education in the workforce.
I think so. And along with the upskilling usually comes a higher rate of pay and usually better working conditions. So if you're not the one that has to lift this really heavy stuff on here all the time, now you get to, do something that's not quite as hard on your body. I know, well, anyway, you get to make a little bit more money, typically have a little more free time because this thing can do it and you don't have to.
So quality of life improves.
Right.
All right. That's a good way to put it. Yeah. It does seem a little scary, but when you think it through, it's benefiting the quality of life. So our communities are stronger, our workforce is more talented individuals, they're more confident, they're more capable, they're more skilled, and they are better compensated for their skills as well. So, all right, now we have these students that have no idea, or even just young people, maybe not even necessarily students at this point, they're not sure what they want to do. They don't know how to work on a car. They're not sure they don't know that they want to go work on a robot
Right.
that puts lids on toothpaste. So what do they need to start thinking about now? What would you say if you had a student in high school or middle school age? What kind of things do you think they should be? What skills should they be focusing on? What subjects? What's your advice to them?
Okay, so a couple of things. One, I think as industry has begun to see this, and education, higher education has begun to see it, we need to be able to get those experiences to students so they have an idea of what they want to do. There's a lot of turnover because of people getting in jobs, and you've probably heard it too. You know, there's a small percentage of people that are actually doing the job they got their bachelor's degree for. We need to do a better job of giving people experiences so they know what they might want to do. So part of that's on us, and part of it's on manufacturing to be able to translate those skills backwards. The biggest thing that is needed in education and is things that make you think. So not necessarily just rote learning, but things that make you think critically. And that can be English, where you read a book and you are, what's the author really trying to say here? Or you're taking math classes where you have to, not only do you learn the equation, but how do you apply that to something in the real world? So of course, your math, your science, those types of things, anything that really gets you to think, because if you can think, you can do anything. And if we can get those experiences back to people, younger people, then I think we've got an excellent chance of getting people into things that they want to do for the rest of their life and they're going to be happy with and be able to make a good living at.
Okay, you make it sound so easy. And I do have a high schooler, and I'm trying to think how I could get him to think critically. And maybe I need to send him to you, because I don't know how to get him to think critically at all.
Jamie, that's the one thing that I found out, that typically as humans, we don't like to think. We will do the easiest possible thing. We'll try to memorize rather than think things through. You see our local political situations going on. There's a lot of it we haven't thought. Somebody's told us something, we bought that, and we regurgitate that, and we aren't thinking for ourselves. I have high schoolers too. I've got 7 kids.
Oh,
And
good job.
It's always a chore to make them realize that the things that you're doing matter. The things that you're learning, whether you're in band or whether you're in chorus, trying something new, learning how to ride a bike for the first time, and how your brain is figuring all that out, because that's pretty tough. And that's what I try to explain. Like my son, who's been riding a bike and popping wheelies now and riding with no hands, he's like, well, how do you do that? Well, you can't tell somebody. I mean, you can, but they have to experience it. So it's those new experiences that really that get you into that mode of learning and experiential learning and critical thinking. So
That's absolutely right. That's how you build up those dendrites and your neurons, and you make those new thought processes. And then your brain even takes that and finds a shortcut. So then you're back to not thinking again, and you got to intentionally start all over again with learning something new all the time.
I've got a little story for you.
Okay.
So I used to do this program that was supposed to help train your brain. And one of the games was this penguin maze. And so you would run your penguin through the maze with your keyboard, and the computer would, and it would go slower. And I got to where, oh yeah, no problem, I could beat the computer. But then it would randomly turn the maze. So now instead of pushing the up button, your penguin needed to go right instead of up. And I got so frustrated. I played this game forever, and I couldn't do it well at all. I hated it every time it came up. And then one day, it just made sense. And I never struggled with that again. And it was such an eye-opening experience for me, because that's what it's like for so many people with math or science or chemistry, is if you'll stick with it long enough, your brain is trying to put it together. Like you said, you're building those neuron connections. Mm-hmm. And one day they will actually be there, and it's like, oh, suddenly this makes sense. So you can't give up. You got to train your brain to learn and just keep working at it, because it's designed to do that, to figure out how to do those things you want to do.
It really is. And all the cool things happening with AI and machine learning, it's still never going to be to the same level of what we're capable of. Or maybe it will. I don't know. I don't know the future. The next iteration of humans might get to there where they create this, or some aliens create this amazing computer that has artificial intelligence and goes beyond what we can do. But I just like to be of the mindset that we don't need to be scared or worried of AI, of robotics, because we're very much more capable than we realize.
Oh, definitely.
It's going to benefit us in the long run, just like everything else has so far. We just keep getting better.
I just got done taking a class on AI and machine learning from Berkeley College of Engineering, California. And
Lifetime learner, aren't you? I can tell.
I love to learn stuff. You know, we spent 6 months. I'm in there in that class with these brilliant people who make me feel really dumb, but incredibly intelligent people, all working on these things together. And we still all talk. But the fear that I had of AI, and I've heard these stories about, is gone. There are so many ways that AI is inferior to us, and one of them I thought was really interesting, was they taught an AI to recognize images, and it was really good at recognizing images. But people found they could change one single pixel color, and it wouldn't recognize it anymore. Now, we don't know how it was learning, but something about that one pixel color made it guess that this object was something else. And it was incredible to me. Here that we think it's so smart, and yet this one little thing completely messes up its algorithm.
That is fascinating. And that does make so really reinforces that we don't need to be scared of this, because if one pixel can fool it, like it's all right. We're much better. So, all right, we're about out of time, but any really cool, fun stuff that you want to share on AI, automation, or any parting nuggets of wisdom? I know you, and you're super intelligent, so just you feeling stupid around other people, I can't even imagine that. But so please share whatever nuggets of information you have.
So yes, strangely enough, we are going to be starting our own AI and machine learning curriculum here at Lakeland. It's in the very basic stages, so usually it takes us a couple of years to roll out a program. We are also working on some other things we talked about earlier, trying to get a grant where we can take technology back to students. So can we take the race car that we have here on campus, can we take it back to the high schools and let them actually see it, or change the tires or the oil, or do those things that might get you excited in that career field? We've got some virtual reality welding equipment now that is really fun. And I don't remember if you were on the virtual reality automotive stuff, if you ever got to play with that. We had some virtual reality helmets.
I did. I didn't try it here. I tried it at some other place, but it was really cool.
That gave you some of those experiences where we can't actually take you into the factory to program play with a robot, or we can't actually get you underneath the car, at your grade school. But where you could get some of those experiences to see if those are things you like. So we are working on those things, and hopefully in the next few months, we'll find out if we're going to be able to do them with this grant.
That is awesome. And I think we should make that happen. Even if we don't get that grant, we'll find another one.
That's what we're trying to do, Jamie.
So that's what the workforce needs. They need skilled people, and that's what we are here to do. So I appreciate your time. I might just have to come see you some other time and talk about this more, because you got me all excited. I feel like I have a better understanding already. Like, it's cool stuff, super interesting. And I just really appreciate your time. So thank you so much, and have a good day.
You've been listening to Workforce Innovation News, powered by LWIA 23. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. To learn more about LWIA 23, visit lwa23.net.